It's a nice morning. Woke up to about 4 or 5 inches of more snow. Decided to blow it off of here before the sun came out. And as you can see, I did a lot with that little bitty snowblower. And right over there, I was snow blowing some wet stuff right in front of the garage, and I quit. Thought I ran out of gas. I was almost out of gas. And then it wouldn't start. So this is probably something that happens to a lot of people. So I'm going to go ahead and let you watch me try to figure out why. As you can see, we got a pretty good snow. I'd say 4 or 5 inches. It's already starting to settle a little bit. That's what I was trying to get done before it did start settling, because I got this asphalt, which I love, but once that sun hits it, it melts from the bottom up and it turns into ice if you're not careful. So I'm going to go out here, see if I can. I've already done a little bit. I've already pulled the spark plug. I'm going to show it to you. Here to this big old electrode sticking out here, and then let me close the door so it's dark, and then I'll pull it and you can see. See, I think you see the spark. So we know it's got spark. I lost the key years ago. It's still on. So next thing is I'm going to try to get the bottom off of this carburetor. See if there's a jet in there that I can clean real quick without having to take this thing apart, because as you can see, it's all buttoned up. You can't get to the motor very well. I'll get right back to you. Whenever you're trying to take a bowl off a carburetor, kind of note how it's shaped and where it sits in relationship to something. In other words, see this flat spot here? I'll give you a different angle. There's a little dip, and a little deeper here. So when I take it, put it back on, I want this to face this little flat spot. That's probably where it pivots. So this probably has to come down deeper. But anyway, if it's ran fine before, put it back the way you found it. I'm gonna go ahead and take that off. This one just happens to be a 1/2 inch, which is pretty common on a Tecumseh. I'm gonna look at this. If I remember right, the jet is right there. So maybe I won't even have to take the bowl off. It's been running pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this under a light magnifying glass and let you see what I'm looking for here. But something I'm going to do before I do that, unless that bowl falls off, I'm going to go ahead and tilt this down and see if gas runs out, and it does. So we know there's gas getting to the carburetor. On the bottom of that bowl, you see that black ring? That's actually a seal. Sometimes that'll come off with this. I'm going to leave it on there. So let's go under a really good light, and I'll show you what I'm going to look for here. See that little tiny hole? There's 2 holes. There's a big hole and a small hole. You see that? Yeah, you can. Okay, the big hole is like, think of that as the jet when it's running wide open. But then there's this little tiny hole that's made for idle. Well, on this one it runs wide open most of the time, but when you first start it, it thinks it's idling, basically. I mean, there's hardly any vacuum in there. And so you want to make sure those are open. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run a little wire through there. And if you don't have the wire, let me show you where you can get some. Okay. You see these? This comes with the garbage bags. These are these little ties. Inside there's a tiny little wire. It's great. It's a great size. I mean, I have wire. I have little pieces of wire I use. But everybody doesn't have wire like that, so most everybody has a bread bag or something they can steal the wire off of. Anyway, take one of these and pull the plastic off of it. And then you got a piece of wire to check this hole. Okay, so I stripped this back. As you can see, it's got this tiny little wire in it. And now it's just basically running it through this, make sure that all the holes are open. Just going to run it through. First I'm going to run it through the big one. It goes all the way through. Now I'm going to run it right down through the center of this. This big one just goes through. But down, if you look down in the end of it, there's a little hole. You got to poke that out of there. The tiniest little, remember these are little machines, they got little tiny orifices. Just clean it out. Now I'm going to use some WD-40. I really only need the compressed air out of it. I'm going to try to back flush those holes, just in case there's something flopping around in there that I can't see. See, it's coming out. So I know it's going through them holes. So that right there should be all right. So now I'm going to go ahead and put that back on the carburetor and see if it'll start. Simple as that. It's clean. You don't even have to wipe the oil off if you don't want to. Put this back in here. Make sure you start it with your fingers before you start putting a wrench on it. Take your 1/2-inch wrench. No, you don't have to have a 100-year-old wrench to do it with. Oh, this is an old sucker, man. Who made this thing? Doesn't even have a name. Los Angeles. Made in the United States anyway. Manufactured USA. The Proto. That's what it is. The Proto. Okay, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I have spark plugs. You may have to run down to the store and get one. Never hurts to put a new spark plug in. You see that how nice and white that one is. This one's all dark. Once it gets a little soot on it like that, if you flood it, it'll get on that soot and make it wet and just short it out, and it won't jump over to here. Gills. You got to realize when you flood a 2-cycle, you're actually flooding the crankcase, because the crankcase has to see the gas first. That's what keeps the bearings from locking up. So on a 4-cycle engine, you're really only flooding the intake, manifold, and the cylinder. But on a 2-cycle, if you flood it, and you flood it bad enough, you actually got gas sitting in the crankcase, and every time you turn it over, you're pulling it up there and flooding it some more. So now we have the dreaded pull start. This is going to be a long video. It did actually try to start just a minute ago. And I pulled on it and the rope came out. So, okay, I'm going to have to tear this sucker apart. What a fine kettle of fish. If you're wondering why I'm taking this cover off, I need to get this off, and it's up against that bottom plate. See, there's no room in there. So I'm going to take that off. Trouble is, it's got all kinds of attachments. I'm going to take off this right here. While I got it off, I'm going to check it out. What else to do? It's not like it's something I do every day. Gotta take off that primer line. See it? That's what I'm doing right now. Alright, these little screws changed my mind. They were so close, hard to get to. I just went ahead and took the whole thing off. Hopefully I can wiggle it out of there. Work on it. See? big. Oh. There's the rest of my rope. It's broken off. So here we go. Broke it. Go get some rope. Run this. I can run that right through there. See it? Can you see that? See? I'll turn it around. See now? See where I'm at? See? Now, hopefully I can shove this where the screwdriver is. Let's see. I could put a tiny little rope in it, but I don't want a tiny little rope in. I want the strongest rope I can get in that hole. Yeah, I do. Look at that. Let's try it again. Ha! Look at that. See? And you just pull that rope through. Remember, it's already wound up. It's already smashed, so it's not gonna. So now I'm gonna like give it a double knot. In other words, I twisted it around like this. Put it back through here. What you want is the best knot you can get, and yet still fit in there. I don't know. This may not fit. There's not much room in there, but we're gonna try it. I don't want that knot. I don't want that rope to come loose. See. Got a knot right there. Now I'm gonna pull this. It would be want to get caught somewhere. Come here. Watch. Pull it in there. See if I can fit it down in there. There you go. That's a pretty good sized knot. Now, when I take this other screwdriver out, I'm going to take it out and then let go of the rope. It's going to wind up. There's one wind, 2, 3, 4. See? As you pull on it, those little dogs come out and grab the motor. Now, leave yourself a lot of extra rope, because remember, it's got to go all the way out the front of the engine, or the front of the. So right now, all we got is a piece of rope hanging out of it, but at least it's not broken. Sooner or later, we'll put the handle on it, but that's the last thing we'll do. So now we got this stupid thing. There's a bunch of rope hanging out of it. Got it? Got it. Right now, all I want to do is get the handle on it and get it so I can start it. There's the handle. Got to shove it through there and tie it off so that it's got a little bit of a recoil on it so it doesn't flop around. That Tecumseh engine is probably the most common engine you're going to find in these little 2-cycle snowblowers. So what we've done there should be relevant to almost any brand. MTD, Toro. I've seen them in, let's see, MTD, Toro. What else is there? I can't think, but they're in a lot of them. They got a lot of different names, but when you get right down to it, there's probably a small 2-cycle Tecumseh engine in it. Well, I just went out and ran it, and I stalled it a couple times in the snow on purpose. Checked out my switch. It does turn off. Let me see if it'll restart. I have not put my tools away because I found that if I do that, sure it won't work. First step will be to get it to start. Got hold of the one hand. Turn it on. I'm not going to choke it or nothing.